A, B, C. A always B, B, C closing. Always be closing.
Good luck with my last name.
I'm not. I don't say last names.
Smart. Everybody who jumps on, they're like, it like dawns on them that like they can't say my last name. And they're like, "Hey guys, welcome. We got Joel."
Yep. Nope.
And then they try it, and I'm like, "Dude, you should have just asked me."
Stay away from it. Anyways, welcome everybody. Another episode of Scared Money Don't Make Money. Before we get started, as you already know, click the subscribe buttons. Get the little bell thingy that goes on. We're still not sure where it goes. You can find us on obviously Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Big for our show right now. And as always, you can reach out to us on any of our social media platforms.
Wait. Wow. We got a Twitter?
Yes, we have a Twitter.
Nicely done. Cool.
I'm gonna keep that, by the way.
Okay, proceed.
And so, anyways, as always, it's your boy Cam, your favorite recruiter's favorite recruiter, and we got your boy.
Of course, you got your boy Roy. He's still not my favorite recruiter, by the way, but he's the coolest recruiter I know. But I'll just say that.
And we have our guest Joe. My man, just before I let him get started, kind of tell you guys who he is. Joe, honestly, has been a huge driving factor for a lot of the social media things that I'm doing right now. So I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. He reached out to me, we connected, and we do little tit for tats on LinkedIn and Facebook, which is nice. And it really helps motivate us to keep the show going and spread the message and things like that. So Joe, tell the people who you are, my man.
Cam, great to be here. Roy, great to be here, man. Yeah, so I am a agency recruiter. I've been in the recruitment space for about 6 years, and I should actually say I'm an ex-agency recruiter. So I just started my own company about 4 months ago. It is a digital marketing agency that's specifically designed to help independent recruiters, agency recruitment owners, and anybody really who's in recruitment with branding, with content strategy, with video strategy, and really my mission is to help rebrand the Headhunter, help rebrand recruiters within our space, and so yeah, that's my mission. My mission is to work with the really, really good agency owners that have a great story, that have a passion for people. Those are the stories that I want to help amplify and elevate. And the recruiters that are just in it for the wrong reasons, I want to get those voices and kind of mute them. So that's my mission. And yeah, so super excited to be here, man. And I know you did my show. Man, it had to be like 6 weeks ago. So cool to be on the flip side here.
For sure. So with your mission kind of being to really, I would say, from what it sounds like, flip kind of the narrative of how when you came into recruiting, how things were. If you could tell them, talk to us about more like how you got into recruiting and how it all started.
Yeah, so I graduated from college 2011, right in the heart of the Great Recession, and I got a degree in finance. So I was like, man, I want to be like a stockbroker. I want to be like Wolf of Wall Street. Right? That's before Wolf of Wall Street, but that's what I wanted, man. I did finance. I started applying for jobs. It's like, nope.
we have no money.
Yeah, that's it. That's how it was. And then it was like, what school did you go to? And I told them school, and they're like, yeah, never heard of it. And I'm like, okay, well, and they're like, who do you know again? I don't know anybody. Okay, well, yeah, you're not getting in.
Nepotism.
So I started working for Wells Fargo, man. I started working as a personal banker, and retail banking at that time it was a tough hustle. I was having to sign up 3-4 people for bank accounts a day. I was having to get credit cards, personal loans, car loans, and I don't know how much people are aware of Wells Fargo, but anyone who hasn't heard of Wells Fargo, they're in the news all the time for
the
really corrupt practices. Yeah. So I actually worked in the market next to LA where they got sued a lot of money for opening up fake accounts.
Correct.
And that all happened because there was so much pressure on us. Like my manager would come in to like the break room crying because she'd been just yelled at for not hitting goals. So it was like, it was an aggressive world. And you know, and obviously like a lot of people were struggling with home defaults and mortgage defaults, and you know, people's credits were getting smashed. So it's just a hard time to be in banking. It was a hard time to be in the business world in general. So I did that for about 5 years. And then I had a friend or a mentor who started up a recruitment company. And he was like, man, we're going to revolutionize the recruitment industry. We've got a way different style and system. You've got to come work for us. And I was like, okay, well, beats Wells Fargo. So let's.
You're not gonna go in the break room crying, right, Job? Okay, I'm coming.
Yeah. He's like, and this is like 2015. He's like, man, this is going to be remote work. I was like, you had me yet remote work. You didn't have to say anything else. But it was remote work, decent salary. And basically the way that their recruitment model worked was very different to the typical agency, which is all commission, right? Correct. You place somebody, you get commission. This was actually an hourly billable model. So the way it worked was I would work on, you know, whatever, a construction project manager search. I would spend 10 to 15 hours a week on that search. I would bill the client the hourly rate, and we'd get that money up front. And then I'd fill that search in 6 to 8 weeks. So it was very different type of recruiting compared to agency, like less pressure, less pressure and more pressure, like a lot more client interaction. And I did that for about 5 years. And what that taught me was, I mean, I was working with like vice presidents, presidents, CEOs, and it wasn't the same relationship as a contingent recruiter that's just getting a fee. They were paying me up front. So they cared about what I was doing. So very close interactions with them. So I did that for about 5 years. And about a year before I stopped working at that company, I started experimenting with LinkedIn content. And to put a little context to that, I've been on LinkedIn for about 11 years. Been building up my contacts just through recruiting. You connect with people. And so I had about 12,000 connections when I started posting regularly. But I noticed, like, I would post and I'm like, man, I got 12,000 connections. How am I not getting any likes on this stuff? It doesn't make any sense. And
nobody loves me.
Well, that's kind of how it felt. But it was confusing because I'm like, man, I don't get it. Like 12,000 followers, that seems like a lot. Like I should be able to do something with that. So I started experimenting with LinkedIn content. I wasn't on any other social media. So I wasn't on Facebook or Instagram. I thought social media was a waste of time. I didn't know what content meant. Didn't know what a podcast was. Didn't know what any of this stuff was. And I just started making videos, and I just started talking about recruitment, and I started talking about sales, and I started talking about how to handle recruitment situations. But I did it from a place of just being natural and being myself. So I wasn't there in a suit and tie. I'm literally wearing the sweatshirt I'm wearing right now, probably, and a hat. And I'm just like, hey guys, this is, you know, how it works within recruitment. This is how you, if you want to be a good recruiter, this is what you should do. And I did that for about 3 or 4 months, and I was just doing it for fun. But what I started noticing was it started gaining momentum. So I started getting more likes, more views, more people asking me to be on podcasts, all this kind of new stuff for me. And so after about a year of doing that, that's really what got me into thinking, you know what, maybe I could help people do this. Because I just started noticing, like, within the recruitment industry, kick-ass salespeople, like the best salespeople that you have to be. But when it comes to marketing and like understanding basic marketing principle and brand awareness, very poor, terrible. And you can tell that because when you go on LinkedIn, posts that go viral are hiring managers dropping the balls. It's always about negativity about recruiters, and there's no voice for like recruiters, and there's not very many great recruiters that are killing it in marketing. There's a handful, but I recognized an opportunity for me to come into that space and start getting some more brand awareness. And I saw LinkedIn as a good vehicle for that. So that's probably way more than you wanted to know, but that's okay.
No, I mean, and that's the point, bro. Is like, I don't have any questions written down. We don't do that. Like we like to let it flow, and because that's when the best information comes out off the cuff, you know. And you're right though, especially like about, I think, you know, we did a video for the Air National Guard, an advertisement video. We got like multiple states involved. It was when that it was real popular with the whole like cover up the camera and then, you know,
Sure.
the person changed. So like we had, what we did, you know, we're a part-time force, so we had people in their civilian clothes who then, you know, covered up the camera, and then they were in uniform, like doing something. And we put it on Facebook, and, you know, it obviously did pretty well, but we put it on LinkedIn. And I remember I called Roy and I said, bro, this thing got like 20,000 views and like da da da. And it was, but when I thought about it, metric wise, what is LinkedIn full of? Veterans, people who are currently military, people who are corporate, who enjoy, you know, seeing, you know, fun military stuff. And I was just like, man, that's pretty dope. And so I think that's really when I kind of started thinking about LinkedIn the way that you're thinking about LinkedIn, because before it was just like, oh, if you want a job, like go to LinkedIn, or you should connect.
I think that's how most people think about it still. I mean, I've grown from, like, you know, like I said, 12,000 connections. Now I'm at 42,000 followers.
Yeah.
So, and obviously, like, once you start getting and I've noticed this just even on some of the other platforms I'm on, once you get to certain levels, like once you get to 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, it's not as hard to build other followers, because it's herd mentality. People will start following.
Correct.
I think the hardest part with everything is it's getting that consistency initially, and being disciplined with it, and understanding that it's a long game. If you're going to go down the content route, it's a long game, and it requires daily content. So I'm posting 2 or 3 times a day on LinkedIn. I'm doing TikTok as well. I'm doing Instagram a little bit. I'm basically learning all sides of it, because if there's one thing that I'm sure of, digital, it's not going away.
Oh no.
And it's only growing. So might as well start to learn different platforms. Like, people will mock me. They say, oh, why are you on TikTok? And I'm like, bro, I'm not on TikTok to be TikTok famous. I'm on there to learn the mindset of the people who are going to be entering the workforce, so I can understand how to reach them. And that's what it's about. Like, it's not about the followers and all of that sort of stuff. So, but back to LinkedIn, I would say, like, there's a huge need for, I think, people who, you know, are out of the military and are veterans, because there isn't a lot of those voices. And there's a lot of people I talk to who are coming out, you know, of the armed forces. They do struggle to find a job, because it's not, number one, the system is completely messed up when it comes to finding a job, and it's a different mindset. And I think if you're active on LinkedIn, it gives you, even if you're just posting and connecting with people, you don't need 1,000 views. You need like 3 of the right views, and one of them needs to be a hiring manager for you to get the job. So for anybody, it's a great idea to be on there and engaging and finding people who are like-minded, finding people who have similar beliefs, connecting with them. And content's a good way to do that. But to me, engaging with other people, so commenting on other people, commenting on other content, is probably about as powerful as putting out your own content, if not more powerful, because people always respond well when you like their stuff. Like, no one posts to not have it liked.
For sure. You know,
so
so someone hit me up today. Do you know Alex Mims?
I know Alex.
So you know, as you know, with LinkedIn, like, as you like certain people's stuff, you know, the algorithm changes. It shows you more of this, more of that. And so, you know, I've been seeing a lot of his articles, liking them, commenting, whatever. And then, like, today, you know, he endorsed me on certain skills, you know, and we've never spoken. Like, we're connected, but, you know, we hadn't spoken yet. It was in my plans, obviously. And I messaged him. I said, hey, man, you know, I really appreciate that. Like, you know, we've never even really talked, but, you know, and it was obviously stuff that made sense, like social media, networking, because he's seen the things that I'm doing. And that's exactly what he said. He's like, hey, man, like, I see you're out there, you're doing stuff. He's like, we have to support one another. Like, we got to stick together and so forth, so on and so forth. And then I was like, would you want to talk about being on the podcast potentially? And he's like, duh, let's do it, bro. And so
Totally.
yeah.
That's how it works though. I mean, and I would say, I talked about this a little bit last night. I had like a impromptu live show on my on my page on LinkedIn, which someone commented and was like, "Oh, it's not very professional." I'm like, "Okay, define a professional again."
It was fine. Like,
I know fun. You can't have fun. Remember that. It's so stupid.
Vatos locos.
But no, dude, this guy was like, he goes, I just been introduced to him, and he like comments on it, and I messaged him afterward. I'm like, hey man, like mostly, my show on Monday or Friday is like recruitment leaders, and he's like, yeah, that show that seemed a little bit out of touch. And I'm like, dude, come on, get with the times, man. Like this social media is less about just presenting an image, and it's more about being yourself. And so it's okay to have fun. But anyway,
yeah.
Outside of that, one of the things I mentioned was like the community aspect.
Yeah.
Of particularly like LinkedIn, I found a really strong community because it's different than some of the other social media platforms. Like it's number one, it's less saturated, so there's not as many people on there.
True.
But also, it gives you more room to be able to say something. So on Instagram, for example, if you look at like the comment length on TikTok, if you look at the comment length on Facebook is probably similar to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
But yeah, Facebook is similar. But I think there's more positivity on LinkedIn. There's more opportunity for like business related conversations. So if you're looking to build a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a solopreneur, if you're just somebody looking to grow, it's a really great place to build a community and find mentors. Like I've got 3 or 4 mentors that I DM all the time.
Yeah. And
we talk and they walk me through the situations I'm going through. And I wouldn't have had that. And one of them, I think you had him on the show, Adam Posner.
The Paz.
So, Paz, man. He's like one of the biggest mentors I have in terms of like how he sets up his content, how he runs his business. And he'll call me out and stuff. Like if I do a post, it sucks.
I love the it's definitely funny because I'm like inadvertently on the outer circle of like your guys' somewhat inner circle, as I've noticed. It's like you, Adam, kind of like, and some other people that get in there, like Rich Cardona, and then it's just funny to watch all you guys kind of do it.
It's just relationships, though, is what it is. And you got to think like I've been building these relationships for consistently now for a year and at least a year and 2 months. And I think me and Adam, we talk every day. I know Junaid, who's from nodegree.com, me and him talk every day. And the point is you build those relationships and but it starts with engagement. And we were talking about this before. Like the biggest skill nowadays is, can you take interactions in a comment? Can you take digital interactions and turn them into something that's meaningful? Correct. And I think if you can do that, right now you'd be successful, but in the future, that's going to be a number one skill. Like how do you interact in a real way digitally?
Correct.
And it's hard to scale. Like you can't automate that. People try like getting VAs to comment for them. Doesn't work. People try automation. It doesn't work. You gotta be yourself.
VAs trying. Yeah. I mean, VAs are blowing up right now to,
like to comment for you.
The first, I mean, it's still like just listening to everything. It's like blowing my mind because the way we're transitioning and as fast as we're transitioning, it's like you said, I know a lot of people who come from like the older generation, the different sides, and trying to get them caught up in like you said, like get a LinkedIn profile, and they're looking like I'm kind of one of them, but it's like I am because like he puts me on game all the time, and even hearing now, I want to go back to it. TikTok, please elaborate for me on how TikTok is changing it for you in terms of content branding and all of that.
100%. So Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the TikTok journey that I've had. So I started actually putting out videos about a year and a half ago, which is way before like really like the mainstream really was on it. And that was from somebody I met on LinkedIn who's like a younger guy. He was like, man, this TikTok, like super cool. It's a video platform. You should try it. And so I get on there and I'm like, I messed around with it, and it took me a while to understand like the trends, took me a while to understand hashtags, took me a while to understand it. And at that time, it was very much like a lip sync kind of dancing platform. But what you started to see was a lot more people from Instagram, like Instagram influencers, were joining TikTok. And that, all different types of people. So there could be like social media experts, like comedians, rappers, musicians, like, just anybody with a skill was going on there. And a lot of people who weren't seeing the same growth that they were on Instagram heard about TikTok's organic reach. Like, hey, I'll start getting on TikTok. So I experimented with it, and man, I failed, man. It was bad. Like I probably ended up after about 4 or 5 months, I had like 50 followers, and I was like, man, I'm putting out stuff every day and I'm just not getting it. Yeah. So I took a 2-month break. And then back in January, I was like, I'm going to give this another shot. So I did. And I had my first, one of my first videos, got, I think 100,000 views, just something like, which is for TikTok, that's like nothing. But for me, that was a lot at the time. Went, okay, maybe I'm onto something. So I started putting out content I started putting out 4 or 5 videos a day, and I got up to 3,500 followers, and I was like, okay, man, this is still like really hard. I'm not getting it. And I started my own business, and I was like, you know what? I don't want to waste time now with the TikTok. Let me double down on LinkedIn. Yeah. So I was off it for about 3 months, and I got back on it about 3 weeks ago. And the first video that I did ended up getting 200,000 views, and I got 1,000 followers in a day just from that video. Second one I did was 50,000, and it's kind of continued on. It's kind of continued on that trend. Like I've had a lot of like videos that have gotten good views, but what's happened is there's a shift now. And what that shift is a lot of the people who are following my videos are people with like 30, 40, 50, 60 followers, and a lot more like older people. So I think it's a lot of people who are out of work with the pandemic, and they're like, man, I've got to get on this platform. So there's an opportunity there. I would say if you're selling to consumers, it's a no-brainer. You need to be on there. Yeah. I think if you're looking to understand just marketing as a whole, I think it's a good platform to experiment on. Yeah. And really, I think the best way to approach social media in general is to have the same profile picture for every profile, have everything like tied together, because then what you're able to do is you're able to pull people to different platforms. Yeah. And so I've been pulling people from LinkedIn onto my TikTok. Now, when they go to TikTok, they're going to get a different feel because it's a different platform. So I'm not going to put my LinkedIn content on TikTok. Yeah. But I think that's at the heart of like marketing and branding, is figuring out what platform does what works on each platform. Correct. And learning. And I think so the point that I would hammer home for any of these platforms, LinkedIn included, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you're looking to build, the best thing to do is to immerse yourself in it, put out as much content as you can, learn from other people who are doing things, and experiment and figure it out. And it comes back to the point that in 10 years, we're still going to have social media and digital space, and it's just going to be bigger. So if you could figure that out now, you're going to set yourself up for the future. The flip side, we got a lot of really experienced older people who are going to probably retire in 5 to 10 years. They're the ones that are telling you that it's a bunch of garbage and you're wasting your time. Yeah. But they're not going to be around, so who cares? So that's kind of my my mindset with all that.
Yeah, I mean, just like when the other day when I posted that thing about LinkedIn and the dude, me and the dude are going, he's like, I don't see what the point is. And I'm like, bro. Come on, man.
I get that all the time. I had a guy in Milwaukee where I live, and he jumped on one of my posts and he was like, this is stupid, and like,
Mhm.
these influencers are dumb. I'm like, first of all, I'm not an influencer. I don't know why you're saying that. I call him up and I go, I'm not gonna say his name. Let's say his name is Jim. I'm like, Jim. He's like, hello. And it's a Saturday morning. He's like, hello. I'm like, Jim, it's Joel. How are you? And he's like, what? Oh, Joel. And I'm like, Joel from LinkedIn. And he's like, oh, you're that recruiter guy. And I said, yep, exactly my point. You know, I'm a recruiter. You know exactly who I am from LinkedIn. I don't even have to tell you the power of branding anymore. He's like, what do you mean? And I was like, Jim, I have no idea who you are. And you know who I am. That is the power of what I'm doing on LinkedIn. I was like, what do I do for a living? He goes, you're a recruiter.
Mhm.
So how do you know that? He goes, LinkedIn. Okay, so you're telling me that LinkedIn's not powerful. And he's like, yeah, but, and I'm like, okay, well, what about your salespeople? Don't you think, because then he said, I'm going to retire in 5 years. What do I care? I said, fair enough, man. You don't have to care. But what about your sales team?
Yeah.
Don't you think it'd be good to train them up in how to use this because it's not going away? And suddenly it's like, yeah, I suppose you're right. So I would just say, like, there's older people who catch up. Dude, there's grandmas. Like, I think there's like an old grandma on TikTok who's got like 50 million followers. And she's probably making more money than all three of us put together with one video. And she just got sponsored by Bose to do a commercial. So there's old people that catch on to this stuff and throw themselves into it.
Yeah.
But then there's also a lot of mindset of like, I don't want to adapt. Like, I've been doing things this way. I've made my millions. I put my kids through college, and I respect that. I really do.
Yeah.
But I hope when I am older, I can look back and say, like, I'm still adapting with the times, because it's like, what's the point of finding that? It kind of doesn't make sense,
No,
it does not make sense. I can honestly say that adapting mentality. I mean, the younger generation already got it. Like, like they got it, and they're running with it, and like keeping their attention. Like, even with like my kids, like just talking to them, they're like, "Oh yeah, I want to do this," and then they're like moving on to the next thing. I'm just like, bro, I'm still trying to catch up from last week. So, so just on that side of it for branding and marketing and content sharing, man, I would have never guessed in a million years. Like, it would just, I think the pandemic probably sped it up.
Oh, definitely.
For sure.
Oh yeah. The pandemic 10x'd it.
Well, it did, because it's like, I mean, I see this a lot on LinkedIn. There's a lot of CPAs, there's a lot of financial advisors, there's a lot of real estate people. And what's happened is, any of those industries where you predominantly met people at face-to-face networking events, there are no face-to-face networking events.
Yeah.
And so the attention goes to, how are we going to get in front of people? And obviously, like, most of those industries, they're very heavily sales focused as well. So they think, okay, well, if we just reach out to 50,000, if we send an email blast 50,000 people, even if we only get 1% back, we just got 5,000 people.
Exactly.
And instead of approaching it from a mentality of, I need to treat these social media tools exactly the same way that I would treat a person on the other side. So if somebody comments on my post, I'm going to comment back. Like, if somebody, it's a conversation starter. And that's where, I think, like, for example, podcasts, like what we're doing right now.
Yep.
Podcasting is that's like the future of networking. Like, it won't be like, hey, can I do a sales calls with you? It's like, hey, do you want to jump on my podcast? Let's learn about each other. And you've got to, it's just like, it's switching mindsets with things, but it's like you said, things are moving very quickly now. And I think even when the pandemic is over, there'll be more face-to-face stuff, obviously, because that's what life is about. It's about being face-to-face with people.
Yeah.
But I don't think digital suddenly goes away. I think it's going to continue getting bigger. And the telltale sign of that, it's always like, you look at what the younger people are doing. They're the ones who are going to control the future. Like, music industry, interestingly enough, like in music industry, for example, I got a friend who's, you know, platinum album seller, you know, got a record deal but she hadn't done anything on TikTok. And, you know, 3 months ago, they were really putting her pressure on her, like, hey, you need to start putting out content on TikTok.
Yeah.
And that's because Jason Derulo is
man,
like, he's
that
got
dude.
millions of fans. He got #1 songs from TikTok. And
Yep.
that should give you an idea then of like, maybe TikTok isn't for you, but understanding it is still important because especially if you're a recruiter, that you've got to be able to connect with those people who are in that position. And maybe in 10 years, you know, obviously they've matured and they've grown, but they'll still like taking content the same way. They'll still like videos in the same way, like that, because it's like, that's what they used to. So yeah, I think it's super important.
I saw this picture that said how integral the Netflix effect is for business, and it was talking about
I saw that one.
Yeah, you saw it, and it was talking about the Queen's Gambit, the Queen's Gambit.
Yeah,
and it was talking about like this show came out,
searches,
and then like, you know, like Amazon chess sets went up 600%, and you know, chess was searched 200% more than it's ever been, you know, what, like all this type of stuff, and it's like all because that show came out.
Yeah, same thing happened with Tiger King. You know, when that show came out, it was like,
I've watched that season 3 times.
Are you serious?
I swear to me and Adrian, I don't know why. Me and Adrian, like, I just be sitting on the couch. I'm like, yo, I don't know why, but I feel like getting some Tiger King in my life. She's like, yo, put it on.
Wow. I could only watch it once, man.
Bro. Like, you just like, what the fuck?
but it is that same idea, and it's being able to basically it's being able to take trends and equate it to like whatever you're doing. Correct. And learn from it. Like I think, you know, like whatever, people still knock it like, oh, TikTok's stupid. I'm like, yeah, it's so stupid that there's 620 million active users. It must be stupid. Like, it's like, quit thinking stuff stupid and just try and understand it.
Yeah.
And then especially in a business world, you've got to understand trends and speak intelligently about it. And I think if you're, especially with content, like I think digital marketing, you know, for anybody who's out there that's like, man, I'm thinking about getting into digital marketing.
Yeah.
Do it. And the way you do it, the coolest thing about it is you don't need to go to school and get a certification on SEO. Yeah. You know, you need to experiment with like writing blogs and driving traffic. Yep. And like marketing yourself first. And if you can figure out how to market yourself, then you can figure out how to market other people. Correct. And it's like amazing. It's like you get to figure that out. So like the way I look at it is I'll test a post out on Twitter. If it's going to do well on Twitter, I know for sure it's going to do well on LinkedIn. That's where most of my followers are. Yeah. I might test a piece of content on TikTok. If it does well on TikTok, I bring it to Instagram. Yeah. And it's like, I might have a message on LinkedIn that does really, really well, people connect with. I figure out how could I get the same message on the TikTok. Now, I'm not just going to do the same exact. I'm not going to put my LinkedIn video on TikTok. That'd be stupid. I'm going to do a TikTok video, but with the same message. So you can say the same message, but understanding the way that different people receive it is a huge skill. And I think for recruiting, it's massive. You know, I mean, you got to write people quality messages to get through them. You got to know how to text them. You got to know, I think in the future, you know, you're going to have to get good with video dialogue with some of these candidates that are coming through. How do I send a good video message that keeps them engaged and gets them excited and want to call back? That's how we've got to be thinking. You don't want to be listening to the guy who's 65, who's had a great career, who's telling you just to pick up the phone, like, oh, just make 1,000 dials a day. Yeah. Phone still works. You still make money, but we've got to integrate this marketing and digital strategy into sales. Yeah. If you don't, you're going to get left behind without a doubt.
Yeah. That's something I really want to start getting into is the whole video messaging thing, because I've gotten a couple of, you know, it's funny how like the human brain works, because I've gotten a couple of them and I'm just like, man, like this was so much more personal than, you know, this a regular message where someone's just talking into their phone or, you know, something like that. Like they send a video message and I was like, man, I think I really want to start kind of getting into this where I start sending a video message throughout, to certain people, when I first connect with them and things like that. But I've been doing virtual coffees. As you saw, I call it Coffee with Cam.
Yeah,
Like,
I love that.
People hit me up and I say, hey, look, I would really like to actually talk to you. Like, I don't have anything to pitch, but even if I did, it's not a pitch meeting. This is like, hey, I want to know what your journey was like, yada, yada, yada. And how can we connect? And then in the future, when you see my stuff or I see your stuff, we actually know who that person was and what they're trying to do. And I had a woman hit me up today, because she saw me on one of the other posts and then added me and was like, hey, I saw your post that you're a military recruiter who retires in 6 years and you're trying to build your network now. She's like, I love that idea. And I said, hey, would you want to do, Coffee with Cam? And I said, it's not recorded. It's just us talking. I'd love to just kind of learn about you. And she said, that takes so much pressure off it. Like when we finally like talk in person. And I was like, that's the point. That's the whole point. It's just to connect.
But
I got that from you and Mark Noodleberg, like, because like talking through you, how you and I connected, and then I talked to Mark yesterday. I did one of his coffee sessions with him yesterday, and I was like, hey man, by the way, I stole your whole coffee thing. No offense, it's Coffee with Cam, and he's like, dude, I love it. He's like, that's what it's about.
I mean, but it makes so much sense because even like just listening and hearing just different things and just being on social media, even though the world is as big as it is, social media is quickly showing me how small circles can be because like when I say you don't realize, like, how does this person know the exact same person that I know? Like that's what's been blowing me up because like now with the podcast and the YouTube shares and stuff like that, like I get different friend requests and you may know this person, and it just blows my mind. Like, because when I was stationed here and I get stationed here, when did they get stationed together that we weren't at the same location at the exact same time? So like, and it's just crazy because, man, like I'm even finding like long lost friendships from years past because of social media. Like but you said
it's massive, man. It's massive because, like to Cam's point with the offline meetings, the Coffee with Cams, I probably done, man.
Yeah, I say you probably done a grip.
it's gotta be
Cup of Joe with Joel.
it's like more like cup of, I don't know. It's probably like a cup of craziness, man. Like I get on the phone with people, it's crazy. But I would say I probably have had between 800 and 1,000 calls offline.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like networking on crack, man. And it's that's where, I mean, I talked about this in a podcast recently. Sometimes I work with clients and like, yeah, I'll get some engagement like yours. And I'm like, you don't see like the offline, like where it's come from. Like I've had conversations, like when I post, low side, it's 200 or 300 reactions. There's 15 to 20,000 views on it. Yeah. But when I go back and look at who liked it, I probably talked to half the people that liked it in like a real way offline and made a connection. And again, it's like, it's going back to like that networking event idea of like, you go to a networking event, you take the business cards and then you call them. Hey, I met you at the networking event. Yeah. Hey, so I want to know more about you. Or maybe you have a chat at a networking event, you get along with them and you call them. And the quicker you can get it into your mind, like particularly with LinkedIn, but just in life in general, you don't have to have a reason, or you don't have to have a reason or something you need to get from every single person that you have a conversation with. Correct. In fact, you should be looking to give. You should be looking to bring value and like, how can I help this person? And so a lot of my conversations I have online, or offline is people asking me questions about LinkedIn. I'm sharing with them. I'm like, you should try this. You should try this. You should try this. And I am number one believer that if you give and you're like you said, you're giving or you're wanting to connect with people, here's what happens. Yeah. You connect with Sally. Sally knows Jane, who is a buyer. She knows Judy, that's a buyer. She knows Sam, that's a buyer. She knows Peter, that's a buyer. She's not a buyer, but she likes you. So she starts telling all of the buyers, the people
Correct.
who could buy from you, about you. And suddenly you had 10 conversations with people and they've each got 4 buyer connections. You just did 40, you just got 40 new prospects that are warm referrals into the business because you went into a conversation without being salesy or looking to get anything out of it other than connecting and giving value. I mean,
Who does that sound like, Roy? I used to say this. I used to talk about that all the time when I was a recruiter in Louisiana, because people would be like, why are you meeting with this person, or why are you doing that? Like, they're not a lead. And I'm like, yo, you're so simple minded, bro. Like,
Yep.
you have no idea how much this one touch, think about it. You got 5 fingers, right? One, or 10 fingers.
You got 10.
Five fingers.
You might have 5 fingers.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right? So, but each one of those fingers touches somebody, like you said, that then multiplies, which then multiplies,
Mhm.
And I mean, you're right, man. I feel like people, they don't see the overwhelming, like the long game,
It's like a book that I read. It's literally called
you read a
Go
book?
Give.
Yeah, go give it.
Go Givers Sell More. Like,
Yeah.
that was probably one of the most powerful books I could have read when I got into recruiting, because I mean, just helping somebody put a desk together, not to get anything from them, just like, hey, I need help putting together a desk. All right, cool. And getting the amount of referrals just from putting together a desk.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Like, it's Go Givers Sell More.
Well, you think about it, it's like sales is always about, like go after, and it's like, man, you just start thinking like you said, start thinking like a little bit deeper, and like think about who can I connect with, who can I connect with, who can I connect with, who can I give to. And with that book, I think, because I read that book too about 2 years ago, and I remember at the time I was just thinking like, man, like, what do I have to give? Like, I got nothing. Like, I can't give him. I don't have anything to give. And it isn't until like 2 years later that, I've learned all this stuff with like LinkedIn. I've learned these different things. And I've learned, I guess, wisdom from just networking. Now I have something to give. And, so I think for people out there, it's like, well, if you're in that position, you're thinking, well, what can I give? It starts literally by just giving yourself to like connecting with other people and like give encouragement. Like, we can all give encouragement. You see someone, hurting, who's a friend, or maybe someone you've connected with in the past, or you see someone struggling, maybe on social media, or you see someone on social media and you think, man, haven't talked to them for ages. Send them a message and be like, hey, I was thinking about you.
Yeah.
Hope all is well. I'd love to connect with you. But people, they don't do that because it's so focused on like, how do I get to my goals? How do I get stop thinking about that. Start thinking about, how can I help this other person get to their goals? Or how can I help this person? And be willing to have, like you said, it's a time investment, and it doesn't produce something like the next day.
Yeah.
But over time, it really does. And I know now, like, I know I don't do recruiting anymore. Yeah. But I get so many candidates. I get so many people wanting so many sales opportunities that people are like, hey, could you help me recruit in this role? I'm like, no, I'm not a recruiter, but I know lots of recruiters. So here's some, here's a recruiter you should get in touch with. Mm-hmm. And, but yeah, but again, it's like, I don't think they don't teach this stuff in school. They don't teach it in sales. In sales, it's like, just pound the phone, man. Just get that one.
It's direct impact. Like what do you have for me now? What do you have for me now? Like
hunter mentality every time.
Yeah.
I think it goes kind of back to where, I know growing up for me, I think that's where I learned a lot of my networking, people interaction type of skills, because that's what my grandparents did. That's like, I'll be out with my grandparents and my grandfather, he'll be talking to somebody. I'm like, you know them? No. just wanted to say hi and see how they were doing. I'm like, so you just had a whole 10-minute conversation with somebody you didn't know. Mm-hmm. But it wasn't until years later I found out, I mean, after he passed and all of that, I didn't know that he was a business owner. I would go to a shop, but that was what he did. He used to interact and get so many deals just by interacting, having small conversations with people, and it goes a very long way. Um,
Yeah.
so I
That's
think
huge.
I think that's just something that we're taught. If you're in that type of household, if you're in that type of environment, I think over time it just comes natural for a lot of people. And I think like hearing you took those skills that you had naturally from growing up and you just applied it to the digital age. That's kind of dope.
100%. Yeah, and I mean I love that because it's like take that those local interactions and just we have like a global opportunity to reach out to people, or at least a national opportunity. Let's say
Yeah.
maybe your market's just in the US.
Yeah.
Dude, 20 years ago, if you wanted to meet with somebody in LA, you'd have to cold call them
Yep.
like 20 times. You'd have to try and like get through a good gatekeeper. You
Yep.
get through to them, then you'd have to like win them over on a cold call.
Yep.
Then you'd have to follow up with them. Then you'd have to send them a message. You have to say, hey, I'm going to buy a plane ticket. I'm going to come out and meet you. I'm going to take you out to lunch. I'm going to buy a plane ticket, a hotel. Do like $2,000 to get time with someone. Nowadays, it's like, hey, here's my Zoom link. Here's my Calendly and my Zoom link. And then you're having like, it's not face-to-face, but it's about 80% there.
Yeah.
It's enough to where you know this person's worth making the flight out to. But before it was like, man, you would have to like try and set up like 10 meetings. 6 people don't show. You're like, this is a waste of time.
God damn it.
It's powerful, and it opens up a huge opportunity really for anybody that wants to do something for themselves. It's never been easier. It's always going to be hard.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Always going to be hard because everything's hard. You want to be good at sales, it's hard. If you want to be good at whatever you want to be good at, it's hard.
Yeah.
But nowadays, it's like we have so many tools. There's so many resources that you have. You know, I look at like what my setup right now. I got a cell phone in my pocket that's, massive technology compared to 20 years ago. I got a laptop, video, internet even. Wasn't around 20 years ago, not the rate it is now.
Yeah.
So start stop ruling out what's possible and start testing like what is possible. And I think, for a lot of people, even going into the workforce isn't even the right option. I think you should just try something yourself. There's so many tools it's Canva. I don't know anyone knows Canva. I just started using Canva for like digital, basically like a really easy like graphic design website.
I think I saw a commercial for it on something.
Yeah, it's like $10. I pay $10 a month for the premium service, but literally like it's like you pick your design, you like can paste it. But I use that all the time. I use it for business proposals.
Yeah.
Wow.
People look at it like, oh wow, that looks like it was done. I'm like, yeah, it was $10 on Canva, and I spent a little bit of time instead of hiring somebody for $2,000 to design it for me. But those are the types of tools that are out there because it's how technology is. So yeah, I don't know. I just think I think a lot of like younger kids are catching on to that where they just realize like if you got an internet connection and you got time, you could probably make some money.
For sure. That's one of the things me and Roy have talked about when it comes to, I think a lot of the recruiters, unfortunately in the military, people who start out regular jobs and then go into recruiting recruiting is very much self-paced, right? But as you know, with most corporations, the military, private, whatever, a lot of that training is it's very spoon fed. Like, hey, this is the action you're supposed to do. This is the reaction that's supposed to happen. But in recruiting, they then get thrown into it, and it's like, nope, this is on you. There's no manual. Like, we'll tell you legally what you can and can't do, and we'll give you a process that you're supposed to follow. But ultimately, a lot of this is start and finish, give and take, learn on your feet type deal. And unfortunately, if you didn't already kind of have that skill growing up, or you weren't taught that in your old, whatever old job you were doing, it can put you at a disadvantage.
For sure.
Especially in today's world, or I mean, not today's world is different versus the years past, because I remember coming up, creativity was frowned upon. It was stifled. Like it was.
Yeah.
We
we don't want you to have your own mind.
Like, oh no, like no, you can't have your own mind. So
stop with that brain power.
And I think that's when I became a recruiter. I mean, because that's true. Like that. I mean, that's real life true. I mean, you got to use your brain power in different ways, but like after coming into recruiting, doing different things, talking to different people during the podcast, I went back to one of my old childhood dreams of one day being an inventor. Like it was through the podcast that I was reminded that one of my biggest dreams that I kind of pretty much suppressed was to be an inventor. And coming into recruiting, I got a little bit of that creativity power to make something my own. And that's, I mean, just doing the podcast with Cam, like it's just, I want to be an inventor all over again. Like I was driving in the car, like, man, maybe we can do this, or maybe we can do that. But it's just hearing branding and content marketing and all that type of stuff. It's just, I think as long as we push creativity and we don't punish people for being creative, like I got to remind myself all the time having kids, they trying to create. I don't like it.
Oh, it's like you're making a big ass mess.
I'm like, I don't like it, but I gotta remember, like, I can't stifle their creativity, and because I don't do that, I'm always trying some fashion design that my daughter makes or some creation that my son makes. But I love it, like, and I think we just need to push creativity just a little bit more.
100%, man. And it's so funny. It's like, you know, going back to TikTok, I put a couple of videos out there. Like one of them I put out was, it's basically just kind of breaking down a notion that $100,000 is like tons of money. Now, $100,000 is a lot of money in my mind. Like it's plenty of money for a lot of places, but it's not like that much money, like when you break it down. And I've been working in recruitment enough. Like, if you've been working in your job for 5 to 10 years, you're probably making $100,000 a year, I would think, in a lot of fields. Yeah. Now, when I post something on TikTok, which I thought would be that type of platform that would like embrace, you know, something different. I did this with college too. Like, it kind of ripped on college education a little bit because I think it's a ripoff. And I thought TikTok, this is a place to do it. But you know what? Everybody showed up and like hating on it. And like, I got 4,000 comments on one of these videos of just like people calling me an idiot, calling me a moron, and all this sort of stuff. But it comes back to what you just said, where like, as soon as you start trying to do something that's outside of the box, especially if you're in a corporate environment, it gets shot down. But what I would say is, like, I think we are coming into more of a time where like that stuff, people are starting to see the value in it more and more and more. And rightfully so, because I think it's a skill within itself to be able to think differently to people. And it's a huge skill actually within a corporate setting, because if everybody's just sending the same email, and everybody is, and then you're over here doing this, this wins. And so it's, you know, in recruitment, that's why I'm a good recruiter, because while everyone was thinking of the perfectly sculpted message that was going to attract this candidate, I'd be like, oh, this guy speaks Polish, so why don't I make the subject line Polish? You know, or this person's second language is Spanish. You know what? I'll put the subject line Spanish, because probably no one's thought about that. Instead, they're so crafted on their. I did.
That's like what Shally said, where he was like, he's like, look for the broken twigs and the bent grass blades, like those little things that people don't pay attention to try to figure out the best way to contact someone.
Or my favorite one was, I would say, I know I'm just a blood-sucking recruiter, but just give me 2 minutes of your time. And people would just look back, and they'd be like, that's a good one. And I'd be like, you interested? They're like, no. But then like I'd follow up with them, I follow up with them every time 2 weeks later and be like, hey man, I know you weren't interested, but I do a lot of recruiting in your space. I'd love to just connect with you. And guess what?
Yeah.
It worked. Why? Because like I didn't send the cookie cutter. Jim, saw your profile, was really impressed. Wanted to see if you had 10 minutes of time to have a conversation with me. If you do, I've got an excellent opportunity. I do a lot of recruiting in your space. Signed recruiter that sent this to 1,000 other people, the exact same message. It's just, that's where that creativity comes in. And the hard thing for that, though, to be honest, is people don't like things that, especially at management level, they don't like things they can't control.
Correct.
So if you start being like that, it's hard to package. It's hard to teach people that. But yeah, I'm on board with you there, man. I love, as you can tell, I'm a little bit out of the box.
So as we excuse me, as we come to the end of the show, we always ask 2 questions, Joe. So
Sweet.
The first question, these are the only cookie cutter questions we keep on the show.
It is.
These are the only questions we always ask, and we cookie cutter it. Is the first one is, as you know, a lot of our audience is military, trying to potentially cross over.
Yeah.
And or new recruiters, as the market has been starting to build, we're getting a lot of novice recruiters. What is some of kind of like advice that you would give, which you've probably already said, but we'd like it to, this is the time where you talk about it, that you think is very profound advice to help them get their journey started as a recruiter?
Yeah, 100%. So I think we did already touch upon it, but I think have as many conversations with people who are where you want to be. So if there's a recruiter or there's a professional in a field that you want to get into, have conversations with those people and have the conversation to learn, to network, to grow those relationships. And I think too, if you are coming out of military, then you need to really connect with other people who are going to understand the situation you're in, and look for mentors and connect with people who are maybe 2 or 3 years into civilian work, and just ask them for help and learn from them. Not everyone's going to give you the time, but some will. Focus on them. And then the other one is I would just say keep listening to this podcast, because I think to like on a serious note, like just listening to podcasts, like reading articles, blogs, it's huge, and it's just so important to be doing that, and just to be filling your mind with knowledge that other people have is massive. And and then if you've got negative thoughts or whatever, you're feeling down about things, just drown out the negativity and focus 100% on like positivity and like making things happen, and knowing it's just step by step, right? Every day.
For sure. And then our second question is, off the cuff, scared money don't make money. What does that mean to you?
Man, it means be bold, be fearless, chase after that passion, go after your dreams, and take some risks. You can always make more money, but you don't want to get to the end of your journey and look back and be like, man, I could have done like 50 awesome things, and I didn't, because I was too worried about what people might think, failing, all that stuff, man.
Wow. Put his hand up, because on our last show we pointed out that it sounds like such a simple question to everybody, but we have been fortunate enough to where every single guest that we've had has had a very unique spin to it, where it's not the same as everybody else.
And it's refreshing too, because it just means differently to people, and just I like it. I
love it, man. I love it. I got a question though for Cam though, dude. What kind of chair you got there, man? I need to get one of those. It's like
so this is this is our old leather living room set, and our bedroom is big enough to have it in, and it's just in like I put it in the corner over here, and then I
love it, man.
My wife was like, maybe that could probably be like where you do your podcast at, but I have a picture. I just need to put the picture up, but like no, you know, at first I was like, am I gonna keep it? But then I was like, I think it
Looks so
I think it
comfortable.
rocks.
Yeah,
I think it rocks.
I'm
It
sitting
do,
on
it
this
is
like
perfect.
little piece of crap like office chair. My back's hurting.
I mean, honestly, it looks like your thinking chair from Blue's Clues. That's what it looked like. That's Sam's Blues Clues chair.
This
I
is
like
where
it.
the fate of the world is decided. So before we get off, Joe, tell the people where to find you, man. This is your self-promotion piece of the podcast because that's what we're all about.
Man, luckily, you do a Google search for Joel Lalgee. I'm the only one in the world, so I'm the only one that shows up. And if you just look on every single social media site,
Yep.
I will connect with you on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Just Joel Lalgee, man. Just hit me up. Probably the easiest way to reach me is Instagram and Twitter because I have the least amount of followers on there.
That's true.
But man, I get back to people, and if you're like, hey, I heard you on the podcast, boom, I will respond. And I'm always willing to meet with people. Even if it's 10 or 15-minute meeting, you want to discuss resume, you want to discuss LinkedIn profile, you want to just talk, definitely reach out. I'm always willing to give time, man. That's what I'm all about.
And I can attest to that. So as always, another episode of Scared Money Don't Make Money. Appreciate y'all. And that's a
See you guys.
Indulge and to learn about ourselves. Perhaps